Welcome back to the Musicians Talk Show, episode 4. I'm one of your hosts, Dallas DeWhite.
And I'm the other one, Matt Tully.
The other one. I like that. So what you just heard was a, what's the best way to say it? An expanded theme done by Gary Gray. So last week, you heard his theme he did for the show. Well, he spent a little more time with it in his lair and came up with what you just heard there. And the guitars were done by me. And then Gary took them and, edited them, spliced them, whatever he wanted to do with them from there. So it's kind of a hodgepodge thing. I love it. What do you think?
Yeah, I love it. It sounds awesome. Really big and just elaborate, more elaborate and in depth.
Epic. And we're gonna have Gary on in just a second to talk a little bit more about how he did it and that kind of stuff. But I did want to touch on what this custom theme we're doing is, because we kind of talked about it in episode 3.
Right.
But let's talk a little bit about it right now. What is it, Matt?
So yeah, each guest, we wanted to make each episode, their specific episode, sound like them from beginning to end. So, why not have them? They're all musicians. Why not have them go ahead and do their own intro and do their own little twist on our theme? So
right. So what we do is we send them our theme song, the main one that you hear on most of the talk show episodes and stuff, and then we send them that, and then they add whatever they want. So in Gary's case, it was almost a complete redo. In maybe a guitar player's case, he might add a solo. A bass player might add a bass line. A drummer might delete our drums and add their own. It's up to the guests, and that's what we decided to do. We thought it'd be really cool. Like Matt said, Musicians Talk Show. Let's have musicians add to it. Yeah. So let's get Gary on the phone here. So we just played the theme and talked a little bit about it. But now I want to talk to you about the creation of that theme. Could you walk us through the process a little bit?
Sure. So I got the stem files. I got guitar, bass, and drums, and then it was really. By the way, are you playing all those, or who's playing those?
Oh yeah, that's on me.
Nice. So it was inspiring. So the best tracks that I work on, that I produce, are tracks that I feel fortunate to work on because they're inspiring, and that was such a track. So
you did a great job. Definitely glad to hear that. We definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, and so what I did was. Put them up in my DAW. I use Cubase 9.5, the latest version. And I have a setup that's kind of similar to Hans Zimmer. It's
right.
The PC-based Cubase. And so I was listening to it, and the final chord, where it did this like really cool syncopated thing at the end?
Right.
Well, the final chord on it, I heard it go into this halftime thing. I could just... just as a producer and a composer, after a while, you hear something and then you just imagine in your mind. It was too short. It was so good that it was too short.
Right. Yeah, we had to keep it to about 30 seconds. So yeah, we didn't.
I understand.
Don't really have the chance to expand too much. So I'm glad you did.
Yeah, and so I heard it kind of going somewhere after that. It launched in my mind to this certain chord at the end, and then going into a halftime feel. And then I wanted to. One of my favorite albums of all time is this San Francisco Symphony with Metallica.
Okay.
Yeah. Great record.
And I don't know if you've ever heard that. It's called S&M, San Francisco.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so that particular recording is, to me, like one of the best for many reasons. It's produced really well. It's done live, but it's in a controlled venue, and it has a full orchestra and a like a heavy rock band.
Yeah.
So I heard that as well on this thing.
That's what I got when I listened to your take on it too. That's really cool.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of just launched into this symphonic thing at the end, and then I only had a little bit of time to work on it, and I thought, man, I want to get back to it. So I sent you a couple more versions because I couldn't get away from it until it was done to my standard. Yeah. What did you think of the last version?
I loved it, man. The string development you did with the arrangement and bringing the guitar melody into the strings, I thought that was a great touch.
Yeah, it was really awesome.
Thanks, yeah. It was a nice little motif. And I got, another thing is I've learned as a producer, so when I first did the first version of it, I then thought, I went through a bunch of solo guitar tracks that you had sent me in the past to see if anything was in the same key, that I could use.
That would have been cool.
Well, there was one thing, which is the intro. How the intro goes like that?
Okay. Cool.
I got that from one of your guitar tracks that you had sent me in the past.
Oh, nice. I didn't catch that. That must have been, was that heavily edited, affected, anything like that?
A bit, just a bit, not much, but a bit, yeah. And then, so then I thought, it didn't feel complete. It felt like a backing track, kind of the first version.
Mm-hmm.
So I sent you, as you know, very detailed instructions.
Right.
And
for the solos that I did. Yep.
Yeah. So as a producer, it's important, especially we're in the age of the internet, and you're producing stuff over, like you're getting tracks sent to you in files. It's important, I have a saying, which is too much information is not enough.
Right. That's good. You're full of good sayings. I like that.
And when you don't have the luxury of having a face-to-face communication or Skyping or phone all the time,
mm-hmm.
and you're using written communication, you have to be really overly descriptive in what you're asking for.
Right.
Happens to me in licensing all the time. I get these specs on jobs, and I set up almost every one of my relationships so that I can actually call the people on the phone.
Yeah.
And it's been a key part of my success because I'll get a high percentage of placements on licensing deals because, for one simple reason, because I get more information than everybody else.
Right.
So they'll say I need something that's upbeat and it's modern and it's got a little bit of hip hop in it, and that's all you get. And I'm like, okay, well that's pretty vague. So then I get on the phone with them, and after 10 minutes, I find out that they need something that's maybe not exactly what they were even asking for at the beginning.
Right. Gives you a competitive advantage.
Exactly. So I use that as a producer too. So when I sent those to you, I was saying things like, I said, hey Dallas, give me 4 solos. One solo, I'd like you to do it with like long melodic phrasing, long notes in the tradition of Brian May from Queen.
Right.
And you nailed it. By the way, you nailed all these.
Oh, thank you, because you said the Greg Wright one, and I'm glad you sent a video because I'm not familiar with his playing at all.
Yeah,
so you sent me him doing the Beat It thing, so I kind of did an Eddie, Beat It thing.
Exactly.
With the tapping and stuff. So.
Oh, it was awesome, and that's an example too that I sent a video to you, so you had a reference because I figured you knew the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sent you one. I wanted a track like Brian May from Queen,
mm-hmm.
one like Eric Clapton.
Yep. And then Greg Wright.
Greg Wright. And then the other one.
And then the other one was in the style of Dallas Dwight. I can do that one pretty good. I don't need to try to do that one.
I used most of the Dallas Dwight one.
I did. I noticed that, and that was very flattering, so I'm glad about that.
No, because you did great.
I appreciate that.
So, so then what I did was I have a whole system of production that I do where I redid some of the drums because I felt that for the version I was doing, I wanted a more rich and punchy kind of drum sound.
Mm-hmm.
So I reworked some of the drums. The bass was really nice. I use I don't know if you want me to get technical about this.
Sure, get as technical as you'd like. I know we have a bunch of listeners that are into that stuff, so.
Okay, good. So there are certain plugins that, to me, are like power tools. They're very important for musicians to have. On the other hand, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of plugins that are just a waste. And I'm glad I can say that and be honest about it because
sure.
On purpose, I've dropped all my sponsorships. Sponsored by different companies. And I don't want it anymore because as a teacher, I want to be really clear on what's workable and what's unworkable and what are myths and what are lies in the music production field.
Sure. You need to gain that trust anyway, so it's good to be, straight up about that stuff.
Yeah, and I find that a lot of people have their hands tied that are teaching online.
Mm-hmm.
Their hands are tied to sponsorships. Nothing wrong with it. It's just not my approach. So to me, 80 to 90% of plugins are a waste of money for people to buy.
Sure.
And I even get bit with this it's an addiction, buying plugins. Because you see this thing, it's a great rate. Oh, it's only $28. It's normally $200. It's $28. Boom, you buy it, and then you never use it.
Yeah.
But there are a few plugins that I think are very important and very useful. So on the bass track, that's an example. I use the Puigchild 670. It's a Waves plugin.
Okay. Yeah, Waves has great stuff.
Yeah, it's a compressor, and there's a setting called Rave Bass on that particular plugin, which I use on a lot of bass tracks, and it's just amazing. It gives that old school analog compressor limiter sound to your bass. It's real.
Okay.
punchy and fat. And so I put that on your bass.
So the whole bass track was just the bass that I sent you, and I guess you had to add some for the chords you added.
Right, and I added some there, and then I used a vocal rider on your bass track.
Okay, good.
To smooth out the just you can use the vocal rider as a compressor.
Sure.
And so I did that, and I set the limits on it. And then on your guitars, I put a wah-wah on your guitar.
I noticed there was some phasiness going on, which was cool.
Yeah, and that, to me, it just gave it, for my version, for what I was getting at, it gave it a little bit more of a human feel, like it's something that people could emotionally connect with a little more.
Right.
So I used that, and then I actually automated the wah-wah. I drew it in myself because I wanted it to, since I'm not a guitar player, I love doing guitar tracks because I can just get off into a vicarious world of pretending I'm a guitar player.
Complete creative freedom, right, with no limits based on what you know is, kind of the thing.
Yeah, and I get to pretend I'm a guitar player. I love that.
Awesome.
Yeah. So then I use the wah-wah on that, and then orchestration. I have a whole curriculum of. I mean, that's part of my niche. I don't know if I talked about it on the last podcast, but I'm hired to make to create orchestral productions that, right out of the box, done in the box, they sound like major film score productions.
Right. And what kind of sample libraries are you working with in that capacity?
East, West. I use the Cubase stock stuff, a little bit of Contact, and it's not so much. I could use any. The truth is, I could use any library. It's what you do with it after you've stuck it in your mix. And so I massage it, and I have all kinds of techniques that I use to make a. I'll go over one of them. When let's say you're watching an orchestra and you're in a venue and you're sitting there and the orchestra's playing a soft passage, and then all of a sudden they go into this really big, epic, loud passage. As they're playing louder and louder, and I've studied this stuff for years, you'll notice that the instruments are becoming a little bit brighter as they get louder. There's more tension on the string, there's more air going into the mouthpiece, there's more pressure going into these woodwinds, and as a result of the pressure of air or tension on the string, they get brighter. They get a little brighter. So I automate, like when things get louder, I automate EQ just slightly coming up as they get louder.
Right.
And it creates a realistic thing. And that's like one of 30 things I do that are handcrafted, automated adjustments that I make that create what was a sample sounding performance to sound real.
Right. So automation, you're basically taking the place of where you ride the fader, like in the performance or whatever, but the automation gives you the ability to do it, after the fact.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's taking a sound and turning it into a performance and making the performance speak, rather than just the notes.
Right.
As if a live player were playing a clarinet or playing a cello or playing a French horn,
Yeah.
Right there.
Yep. Sounds amazing,
Awesome.
man.
Yeah, it's a really unique take, and I loved it. I love that it was, to my ears, almost completely redone, and I love that.
Well, it was a great piece to work with.
I'm glad to hear that. Is there anything else you want to add on it as we wrap up here?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, and your listeners should know this, is that, after you sent me these stem files, because I have a whole library of musicians I use from around the world, like the top guitar players. I do drums myself, but I have, and my girlfriend's a studio drummer.
Oh, nice.
But I have a whole library of some of the top studio players in the world. And you went to the top of my guitar stack after this one.
Very cool.
I'm glad to hear that. It's a good place to be, top of the stack.
Yeah. So you'll be hearing from me for sure.
Excellent.
Hope so. Well, Gary Gray, man, thank you. And after this and after last episode, I really hope you become a recurring guest on this podcast.
Absolutely.
You have so much info to offer our listeners, and
So my hat's off to you, Matt Tolley, for coming up with the idea. That's I thought that was such an incredible and innovative idea, is to take a guest from a podcast and have them put their own little production touch on the theme of that show.
It works especially well because it's a musician's podcast, so it's just great.
Thank you very much for saying that, and I'm glad you were the first one to do it, and you knocked it out of the park, man. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, cool.
You guys are too sweet.
Yeah. All right, so I guess that about wraps it up on my end, and I'm just excited about it. I'm so happy that you came up with that idea, Matt, because it was really inspiring for me. I do a lot of tracks, and that was like one of the funnest, I'd say, and most rewarding sessions I've done.
Awesome.
Good. I'm glad to hear it, man. Well, Gary, thank you so much. And like I said, you're welcome back anytime.
Yes.
Awesome.
Thanks, Gary.
All right, man. We'll talk soon. Matt, you had something you wanted to show.
Yeah, so I was scrolling through the internet. Dime Vision Volume 2 just came out like a week ago.
And what is Dime Vision for those of us
Dime
that don't
Vision
know?
is Pantera's guitar player, Dimebag Darrell, who was tragically killed on stage. And he was just
What date
I'm
was he
sure a
killed?
lot
It
of
was
people know about
December
it.
8th? I remember it was
Test
very close to my birthday.
in my memory, yeah.
My birthday's the 9th.
I think so.
It was either like the 8th or the 10th or the 12th, somewhere right around there.
They say memory is only as good as what you can relate it to in your life. That's how like you remember things. You
Okay.
relate it to. So there you go.
I get that.
Your memory's probably better than mine on that.
I don't remember the exact date, but I know it was very close
So
to
there
my
you go.
birthday.
So yeah. So
now
anyway,
all the listeners know my birthday is December 9th. There you go.
Well, you get a happy birthday from.
Thank you.
So anyway, so I went back and I watched.
But thank you.
I went back and I watched Dime Vision Volume 1, which is available on YouTube, and there's a really awesome spot in here I wanted you guys to hear. So just take a listen, and we'll talk about it after.
I've known this for years, but I still have trouble battling with this thought in my head, thinking that others are going to know what little crack or crevice makes you cringe, thinking that others are going to hear what you hear that makes you cringe. Well, little do we realize, it's hard to realize that what may sound like a squeaky, out of tune, fucking irritating violin to someone sounds like the most serene, beautiful tone of a fucking saxophone, beautifully in tune in the moonlight. You know, just so sassy that can sway you and really make you feel fucking great. So what's a little imperfection to the man who made it might be the fucking one little thing that's always pointed out by one of my close friends like Johnny Biggs when we're jamming to a track, and he points out this little squeal or this little quirk thing, and I'm like, oh, does that make you cringe too? No, that's the coolest thing. I never thought Mick Jagger was a great singer. I never thought Bob Dylan was a great singer. Matter of fact, I thought he was one of the worst singers I've ever heard in my fucking life. And multi-millions later, you know, he gets his point across, and you feel his emotion, and how you going to get around that, you know? Maybe that's better than the greatest singer in the world, is to be able to get your message through to someone else through the actual way you sing it and feel it at that time. Guarantee he doesn't sit down all day and all night working his balls off over the coals trying to perfect some lyric, you know what I mean? If that's the case, if this is what it's come to in this day and age, why don't we all just sample our voices, our instruments, and our drums, and just put them in a fucking computer and type in the notes and fucking timing and everything that we want to play, and just let it do the work for us? What the fuck? You know, that's why those old records were so fucking great back in the day. Is because there's no way that you could go back and Pro Tool it, slice it, dice it, do this and fix that and fix that. All the imperfections were left there, but really they weren't imperfections. Truly, those were the most honest. You can't beat honesty. Those were the honest fucking, that's the honest way the dude sounds. Unmanipulated. Stripped down and honestly from the fucking heart. What is perfect, you know? That's like saying, man, well, dude, you can play with feel and everything if you're a drummer, but you've got to stay in time. You know, you got to be solid. Well, all I can say is some of my favorite fucking records, the tempo shifts 3 or 4 times. When it takes off, you feel the fucking gas, the power behind it, and it goes. You feel the motherfucker's emotion, and it's moving. You can't stop it. It's like a fucking race car when it hits the gas. How can that be wrong? So that cancels that theory that, you know, to be a great drummer, you got to stay in time. That's horseshit. That's like to say to be a great singer or a great guitar player, you got to play in tune. You got to be in pitch, you know? Well, you can spend all fucking day and all night trying to get it exactly right on pitch, and then go hook up your Eventide harmonizer and bend it back out of pitch. That don't make no sense to me. So some of the greatest moments of guitar playing and singing is to hear somebody's fucking pipe screaming, trying to get to that fucking note, and you can hear the rage, and then, oh! Or overshooting a note. It's like just overexcited, man. That is fucking emotion. That is a live human being, you know. Fucking some of the other greatest moments I can immediately think of off the top of my head are listening to Black Sabbath records back when Tony Iommi would double his guitars and they'd go out of tune. One would be like here and one would be up here. And then when they would fucking dogfight each other, just listen to the front of Iron Man. That's some of the heaviest sounding shit you'll ever hear. And that's more perfect proof that the live feel, the honesty blows away computer technology and what perfect truly is, if there is such a thing. I'm against it all, man. Let it fucking all hang out, brother.
All right. So what do you get out of that, Matt?
So my whole thing is that I think he was just really contemplating what is perfect, and that you can express your emotion, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in some framework that a lot of people hold themselves to. So I think he's just saying, ease up a little bit, go with the flow, play what comes naturally, and if you is that note that you think is maybe whatever. I don't know where I'm going with this. He's talking about cringing over notes and other people pointing them out as the best thing. So that to me is what it's.
He's talking about, the definition of perfect and keeping the human in music.
Right.
And do you have any idea what year this was?
I don't. Judging by the looks
he said Pro
of
Tools.
it
Pro
still
Tools was
Pantera.
invented somewhere in the 90s, I think.
Yeah, it was still. He was still in Pantera, so it wasn't like super late or anything like that. But yeah,
So they started in what? They had an album in 88, 89.
Yeah, they started.
They had three albums
started
that
real
were,
early.
like, not really them.
exactly. You got it. Yeah, and then in early '90s is when they really came on as with Phil Anselmo.
When was what was their first hit? Cowboys from Hell.
Cowboys from Hell was
And
the
when
record
was
that?
and when was that?
91. I think
something
in
like that?
91, maybe 90. Yeah. So.
Okay, so this is
it's well after that. I think
it's
it's
early
probably
90s,
Vulgar
let's say.
days. It's probably Vulgar days. Yeah, I'd say early to mid 90s.
So 94, 95. Okay. Yeah. So Pro Tools is starting to come around, and people are realizing.
Well, he
that,
grew up in a studio, so he's
Okay.
He was his dad was a studio musician,
So
and
he's
owned a
definitely
studio,
used to the old school
Pantego.
way of doing things.
Yeah, exactly, and knows the studio grind and and
Right.
all that stuff. So
And he sees the shift in Pro Tools, which makes it
Yes.
very easy to
Yeah.
cut and slice and kind of fake your way through stuff, right?
exactly.
And these are kind of his thoughts on that. At least that's what I take from it. Now,
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on this topic?
I think he's speaking a lot about the human emotion element of music, which to me is a I think he's just speaking about the power of that, and then versus the power of being technically sound and perfect. You know what I mean? And there's power in both, but and he says his opinion is the human element is his favorite. So you know what I mean? He
I
says it
don't
blows
know.
away.
I mean, I love everything he's saying. I definitely see where he's coming from.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. Let me say that first. But I mean, he's bringing up the Tony Iommi one guitar out of tune, one not. If you if you paid money for a studio, and you go and sit down on one of your guitars out of tune, someone's gonna raise their hand and be like, "What the fuck are you doing?
yeah.
What the fuck are you doing, dude? Like,
Yeah. So
you can't get away with that."
Yeah.
So I'm wondering.
there's a confidence in knowing what he
I think
wanted.
it's kind of like there's channels you have to go through now.
Yeah, which
that
gets polished.
You can't get away with
Right.
stuff like that. And I think as time has gone on, let's call this 94.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but let's
No,
call
we
it
don't
94.
know,
Now it's 2018. All these years later, I mean, the bar has been raised to the point that some stuff can't come through. Like if you love the out-of-tune guitars in Iron Man, like he was saying,
right.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
But if you tried to put out Iron Man right now,
might
you would
not-
get laughed
it's not
out of
gonna
the
go well,
studio
right.
and it would never get released. And I think that's, I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm saying that's that a cultural shift has happened. Our
there's like
concept, the average listener's concept of what is a good song,
Yeah,
what's
there's
perfect,
a standard. The standard
has
bar
gotten
is
so
getting
much higher.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
and I think that might be due to the fact that we did kind of move away from people, right? We're in computers now. We have DJs and programming and hip hop and all that kind of stuff, right?
Sure.
Which, again, not saying is good or bad. I love all that stuff. I honestly am probably one of the few people you meet that genuinely loves all genres of music.
Sure.
I can't say equally, but I
you
do
can
love
appreciate.
all kinds of music. I think that's what makes you a good musician.
Yeah.
Being able to listen to any song. I can listen to any song. I hate it. I love it. I don't care. I can listen to any song and find something that I appreciate.
Sure.
Whether it's the way the snare sounds, whether it's the way the vocalist hits this one line, whether it's the guitar tone, even if I don't like the lick, like I can appreciate different things like that. And I think if more people adopted an attitude like that,
Yeah. More open-minded.
we'd have a more, I don't know, inclusive.
Yeah,
maybe is the
and
word.
it sounded
Music
like he was a
industry.
little bit frustrated in that video. You know, it looked like, you know, he's just in the video, like listeners can't see it, but he's in the mirror with a video camera, just looking, you know, talking to himself. Essentially,
Right.
He's working it out in his head, and I think he was frustrated
exactly.
with something. Something must have been
I'm
on
glad
his
you
mind.
said that. It is. We didn't describe that. It is
Right.
him filming himself in front of a mirror. That's it. He's
Yeah.
just talking to himself in the mirror.
Which
And
I
that
love. I love his
Yeah.
character. I love his personality. He was such
Kind
a
of
like
gives you a little
outspoken
insight
person.
into his head. Now, what is this called? Dime Vision.
Yeah, that's Dime Vision Volume 1, and that's
And what
available on YouTube.
what is Dime Vision? It's his kind of collection.
It's a collection of home videos, yeah. So if you've seen like the Vulgar videos out and stuff like that, it's kind of like that. But it's since he died, I think his family members and friends have been putting together old videos and stuff of him, and they, you know, release it to the fans who still want to, you know, care about him and want to see some stuff, you know, whatever. There's lots of insightful stuff in there that he says, just like that. There's plenty more of that. I mean, it's really awesome. He was he was an outspoken person, so he was
Right.
not
And
afraid
we
to tell you.
listened to let's see, 3, 4, 5 minutes of it.
Right.
It's an hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah. And it's just him and his buddies. You know, a lot of it's goofy, a lot of it's jackass-ish, you know, so like
the scene right before it is him shooting fireworks in a house or something
pretty
like that.
standard.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I just thought
They're
that was
from
good. I hope
Texas,
you guys
right?
got something out of that. Yeah, they're from
So
Texas.
just some good old boys having some good time.
Yep,
Right?
yep. Hope you guys
So-
got something good out of that. It was inspiring to me. It made me think about, you know, like not to be so hard on myself and
Absolutely.
try and see the good in your playing, and maybe it's
And that was a great find. I think we all appreciate you bringing that to the show.
cool. Thanks.
Moving on in the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Not a very big topic, but something I think we did want to talk about was
Yeah.
fake amps on stage. Now,
Yeah.
tell me this picture you sent me. Describe it to the listeners.
Yeah, it's a wall of Marshall cabinets. So,
Right.
I mean, just
On the
like
front.
standard. Yeah.
And then on the back.
Oh, in the back it was, I forgot the picture I
Yeah.
sent you. The back, there was a little amp on the back controlling the whole thing.
So basically, it was just a facade. Like all these amps weren't really amps. It was kind of like imagine like a wooden like poster, basically.
Yeah.
That was all these amps from the front, and then you look around back, and it's like one tiny amp mic'd
Sure,
up, like
sure.
it's clearly.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about that. Let's
Yeah.
talk about, is that fake? Is that practical? Is it part of the illusion? What is that?
I think bands like it as a backdrop. It looks heavy. It looks powerful.
So it's no different than a prop.
Yeah, it's a stage prop. That's really how I see it. And now, I mean, you'll see bands out there now with nothing on stage. They'll have their they'll have banners and stuff.
Personally, I like that.
Yeah, and it's cool.
I like not having anything.
It's
on
cool.
stage.
They can have like I've seen let me think. Symphony X might be one of them, but like Unearthed, I think they.
Steel Panther doesn't have anything on
Right,
stage. All that
right.
shit's off stage.
Well, they do have his half stacks usually on stage. I'm pretty sure.
When we saw him in Myrtle Beach,
Okay,
they had
maybe,
all their stuff off
maybe
stage.
they've since moved away from that. I've seen them a bunch, so it's hard for me. Like I saw them
Yeah,
in LA.
I only saw him that one time,
Yeah.
2015.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, it's just a good way to make a good impression on people. I mean, when they roll the curtains back or whatever, however you're getting unveiled to the stage,
Sure.
you look at that wall of amps and you're ready for a
Right.
rock and roll show.
Now here's the flip side. I guess it's super cool until it's not.
Right.
Until someone realizes it's not, right?
Yeah,
and
sure.
then it's going to be viewed as fake,
cheap, yeah,
instead of a prop, which is just a prop.
Yeah, you
Everyone
feel
knows
like
it's
you're
a
being
prop.
tricked.
But you can't explain that to just the casual fan,
Right, 'cause
who
you kinda
thinks they're
feel- it
real
feels
because they
like-
don't know what an amp is. They don't know Marshall from Engel. They don't know anything.
Sure.
So,
So
just
is your
a casual fan, right?
is your point that maybe it's not worth it to go through the like
for
the
me
trouble of-
personally, I
Yeah.
don't like it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
That's just for me. I like a very clean stage with really nothing on it,
Yeah.
so you can move around it. And,
I wonder, because like old AC/DC back in the day, like in the late 70s and stuff like that, they had walls of amps. And so I wonder if that was real. Like,
and some of them are. I know for
Right,
a
like-
fact Zach Wilds are.
what about Eddie Van
Or at
Halen?
least
I
I've
know
heard.
he's got like 6 like amps, like basically full
I'm not
stacks.
sure. I can say if I was
in
the
a
tech,
row.
I would hate that.
Yeah, sure.
I'd be like, you know how many cables there are now? You know how much shit can go wrong now?
Sure,
Like,
sure. If they're real, right? I'm
Absolutely,
wondering. I'm
absolutely.
wondering myself if they're real. I think Eddie
Right.
Van Halen's might be real. I feel like he might really have 6 amps.
or at
on
least they're
stage.
real cabs
Yeah.
that aren't hooked up, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe they're backup amps too. Like, there's a couple of them that are not on, but they're like if something went wrong with, because they're tube amps. you
Sure,
know. If
absolutely.
something goes wrong with one of them, you shut it down, switch over to the next
Yeah,
one. You know what I mean?
seamlessly, right.
But you don't need 6 backups, so there's definitely not.
Well, it's a blend of image. And
Exactly,
backups, yeah.
exactly. And I think Wolfgang has kind of adopted the same thing with his bass amps.
Insane
Yeah,
bass player.
yeah.
Love him.
Oh, he's awesome.
Love
Awesome.
him.
Yeah.
One of the tracks on the new album is him and Eddie doing like a tapping, like together,
Yeah.
like, doo-doo-doo-doo kind of
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
as
yeah.
an intro. It's pretty cool.
Which one was it?
I don't remember.
Yeah, off A Different Kind of Truth is what you're talking about, right?
Is that the newest one?
That's the new one with the train on the front.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was
I
going
have
to say
that.
Diver Down. Is that another?
It's been a while.
Is that another one? Is that a Van Halen album? At
It's
least
a Van Halen album. But it's like
Yes.
a covers record.
See, I'm not like I know like the hits. I know
Yeah.
the famous ones.
Yeah,
I
that
know
one's got, like-
5150.
Yeah.
I know, you know.
Yeah, Pretty Woman and stuff is on like
for
Diver Down. It's like
for
cover
uncarnal
stuff.
knowledge, whatever. Like
Yeah,
fuck. basically.
Yeah,
That's just-
that's how I remember it too.
I love that album. By the
For
way. There's a
unlawful
lot of good stuff on there.
carnal knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on from this.
Yeah.
I want to get into.
It's time for an album review.
That's right. It's time for an album review. What's our album?
We got the 1975. You want me to read the whole
One of my favorite
title?
bands. Yeah. I want you to read the whole title.
Okay, here we go.
This is the name of the album, my friends.
I like it when you sleep because you are so beautiful yet so unaware of it.
Right.
And there's also a title
it's
track on there.
It's worth noticing. It's worth noting at least that the letter I in "I Like It When You Sleep" is capitalized. Everything else is completely
Right,
lowercase.
right.
So it's almost like the album name is just a sentence.
Yeah, it's very strange. It's very big. I wonder, like,
It's a strange. And first of all, it doesn't say that anywhere on the cover. The cover is. I mean, you could
Right.
call it the White Album.
It's just a white
kind of a
album
white
with
album
the
with a pinkish
1975
1975 logo.
Yeah.
First of all, let me say the 1975. One of my favorite bands. I heard about them. The first time I heard about them was 3 days after this album came out, and I saw a clip of Luke Holland, the drummer, drumming along to "She's American." I didn't know that at the time, but I
Right.
just loved it.
Right.
And he tagged the 1975. I was like, who are these guys? So I looked him up. I was like, oh, they're coming into town at PNC in Charlotte. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Tickets are like $190 for the
Ooh,
lawn.
Man.
I was like, who are these guys? So I started digging and I found this album and I was like, I love this album. And then I found out it came out like 3 days before. And I was like, that's just incredible luck. For me, every song on this album has a place, and there's like 18 of them or something.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Every song is incredible.
Yeah, for me, this is new for me. I only found it when you showed it to me, and it's interesting. It's not my groove, we'll say. It's not necessarily where I, get my pick me up for, I guess, or whatever from music that gets me pepping or whatever. I don't know what you call it, but but I can appreciate it. I do enjoy the smoothness of it. It's very smooth.
There's
the whole
so much to
record's
love.
clean and
It calls
smooth.
back to kind of 80s pop, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's what they're going for. I think they nail it. But
Where are they
but with-
from?
They're from London, I think.
Okay, yeah.
So
They got a
you have,
British accent. I didn't know if it was,
Absolutely. And this is actually their second album. They have one before it, which with a lot of good stuff too. But I only heard of them from this one, so this is the one that I really wanted to talk about. The harmonies on this album, the
Vocal
guitar
harm-
chords they
Yeah.
choose, the keys and the patches and the sounds and the production quality and his vocals and the melodies and the lyrics.
Yeah, I wanna go to
it's
the
all
patches.
so different.
Yeah, the patches. Do you think he's using, or I mean, maybe even no, but do you think he's using direct in like Kemper type thing or Axe Effects or anything?
I don't know what he's
because
using.
I noticed there's a lot of like sudden changes.
You
like
mean live?
Yeah. Well, no. When I was listening
On
to
the
the
studio,
record,
they could be overdubbing
Of course,
who knows what,
but I just noticed that
live-
they're not really afraid to make those giant transitions in tone.
Sure.
Like all of a sudden he'll have like a whole different tone scape,
Right.
And it just jumps right into it, and
And I love this because it's so different, kind of a category of its own. Like,
yeah.
what genre is the
I
1975?
don't know. I don't. I was
Right.
gonna ask you.
Kind of pop alternative with elements of funk and maybe
Yeah,
some rock
yeah.
even at sometimes.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's got a different feel.
If
to
I had to put it in a category, I'd say pop.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to say it's going towards the mainstream for sure. It's like clean.
It's
and
interesting that
smooth.
it sits in the mainstream but is unique.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
it's interesting to view it that way. I would encourage everyone to take a listen to this album.
Yeah,
if you
check it
haven't,
out.
the band is called The 1975, like the year. All numbers, no typing that out. That'd be a ridiculous name.
Any notable tracks on there you want to?
And Matt and I are just decided right now we're going to start a tribute called the 1974.
No, we did not decide that.
I decided for both of us. Matt's on board though. Do you have a favorite track?
Do I have a favorite track?
And do you have a least favorite track?
I liked the. Let me look at it real quick. She's American. You said earlier, and that's a good track. I
a good
definitely. There was a couple of other ones that really stood out to me. I'm trying to think of what.
Love Me is kind of funk-ish. The opening track, the 1975 self-titled.
Love Me. Yeah, actually, that is.
Yeah, that's
one
kind of
of the
starts with
ones.
the funky
Yeah, yeah.
really hyper clean guitar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, the shut off behind
And the chords he's playing, they're weird chords, and he plays them so. I mean, it's just he's
and
great.
it sounds
chord player.
completely defined.
Yeah.
Like
the
all
next song, UGH exclamation point all caps, is actually about cocaine, and it takes a really interesting spin on cocaine. Most songs are about like maybe sad, like I did cocaine, now I have to quit, right?
Yeah, yeah.
or Happy, like Buck Cherry Lit Up.
Right.
I love the cocaine.
Right,
I love
right.
right. This one is from the perspective of like, how do I describe it? He's done cocaine. He quit, and now he misses it and wants to go back, and he's going back. That's what this one's all about, and it's pretty cool. He's talking about like giving it up. I'm not giving it up again is one of the main lines in the song. Then you have a lot of kind of ethereal, like ambient shit.
The sound was a cool one.
The sound is a great one.
It's a good one.
Yeah, and you'll hear these songs in the gym, like anywhere. Like you'll hear them all over the place.
It seems like they would be like easy to be like catch on a radio somewhere. So yeah,
I actually heard "This Must Be My Dream" in the gym one time, which is not a hit at all.
good tune though. Good tune.
Good tune. Yeah, they're all good. "If I Believe You" is about him not believing in Jesus and not being able to come to terms with that faith.
Okay,
It's really cool.
That's good. Yeah, deep.
So a lot of deep stuff.
Yeah.
The main lyricist, I can't remember his name. I feel like an idiot. I should know the dude's name,
well.
right? It's an artist. But anyway,
Check out the
incredible
1975.
stuff. Check out the 1975. Check out "I Like It When You Sleep," for you are so beautiful yet so unaware of it.
And the first record is they're self-titled, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And now it's time to move on to something else.
Solo of the week.
All right, Matt, what's the solo of the week? You
All
picked
right.
it.
Yeah, I picked this one. This is The Rocker by Thin Lizzy, and Eric Bell played this. And really, it's a long one, and it really just feels to me like it was improvised on the spot. And the song is just it's called The Rocker. So, I mean, it's a rock and roll jam, really. And then the guitar player just takes it to the end. It's a pretty long one, but really worth checking out because the stuff he's playing in there is really cool. He keeps it going and keeps just a great vibe the whole time. I love it.
You want to take a listen?
Yeah, let's take a little listen.
Hey guys, Dallas here. I wanted to punch in real quick and let you know that if you're listening to this on YouTube, we will not be playing the solo of the week here. You can hear that if you subscribe to us on iTunes or any of that stuff, or you can just look it up on your own. But due to copyright issues, we will not be playing that here. So let's get back to the show, and thanks for listening. All right.
Big
hate
solo
you for
right
that.
there. I love that solo.
I love it. Let me say this though. I'm a guitar player, and I zoned out like halfway through, and I started thinking like, what am I eating for dinner? Like,
It's a long
one of those.
one.
It's like Freebird, right? I mean, that's
It's
the iconic
like
one everyone
Freebird,
thinks about.
exactly.
It's like, we get it.
Yeah. I like
Now,
it.
I love the solo. I love the phrasing, but I think I could get it in a more concise package.
Yeah.
That's my thinking.
There definitely is parts where he sits on a spot or whatever.
It's funny
but-
that it's coming from a guitar player.
Sure. Well, hey,
Who does
everybody-
solos for a living, and
Yeah.
it's
There's some of the
like
stuff he's
too much.
doing in there. Some of the stuff he's doing in there is just like walla 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 walla. How does he
with
get
the
that
bar
sound?
and shit like
oh
that,
my
right? Yeah.
gosh, it's so crazy to me. And this song is a 2.5-minute song with a 3-minute guitar solo.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a guitar solo song, really. So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed that one.
It was fine.
Well,
I mean, the playing's great.
I love it. It's my favorite. I don't care if you don't like it. You don't have to like it.
I'm not saying I don't like it. I do like it. I have to like all good guitar playing.
You don't
As
have
a
to like
guitar player.
anything.
Yes, I do. I have to like all good guitar playing. I think that's going to do it for today.
Yeah, that's good.
I
That's
think,
a good.
I think that's going to wrap up episode 4 of the Musicians Talk Show. We appreciate you guys listening.
yeah, it was great.
Take us home, Matt.
Had
What are some final thoughts we can leave the...
Well, I love that call from
The audience
Gary.
with.
Gary Gray. That was great to talk to him about what he did on
Absolutely.
that. And then, the fake amps on stage. I'd love to hear some comments. If anybody's got anything to say about that, let's hear it.
Absolutely.
If anybody's a casual music listener and didn't know that there were fake amps on stage, let me know how you feel like
Yeah.
all of a sudden there's no Santa Claus.
Has your world been shattered? Yeah. Everything you thought was a lie. Okay. That'll do it for all, folks. We'll see you guys next week. See you. Hey, guys. First of all, thank you so much for listening. If you could please take a quick moment to subscribe on iTunes and leave a rating and review. Your feedback seriously is really important, and it helps us keep the show alive.
Check out musicianstalkshow.com to sign up for our mailing list. If you do, we're going to send you our main theme song and a few other surprises. Plus, you'll always be the first to know what episodes are coming up.
If you want to help support the show so we can keep putting out the highest quality content possible, please follow the Support the Show link at our website and consider donating to our Patreon page.
Lastly, if you have an idea for a guest or a question you want to discuss, contact us through any of the contact forms on our website, and we'll do everything we can to make it happen.
Whew, all right. That was a lot, but we got through it. Thanks again, guys, and we will see you soon.